Hola a todos y bienvenidos. Yo estoy demasiado emocionada por este episodio porque hoy tenemos a Roxanne y a James Bybee, que ellos son uplines en Doterra, que están en yo soy su décima línea, o sea, ellos están como 10 niveles arriba de nosotros. Este episodio va a estar grabado en inglés y si no tienen buen dominio de inglés, yo voy a poner el video en YouTube con los subtítulos en español, así que ahí pueden verlo. Y ahora vamos a tener toda la conversación en inglés. Thank you, James and Roxanne, for joining us today. I'm so excited to have you here.
We are so excited. Thank you for inviting us, Selma.
Yeah. Hey, it's almost like we get to touch the island a little bit because you're at the beach. So we're kind of at the beach with you. It's awesome.
Yeah. And I mean, for me, I'm going to briefly tell the story of how I met you because I think like I jumped on you when we went to convention last year at the Goddard's Goddard's house. They do an open house. They're also uplines. And to be honest, I know very little of you. Like, I only know that Roxanne is Natalie Goddard's sister and that James used to live in a van next to the river. And now they're both presidential diamonds. So I have like this huge gap. Can you tell us a little bit about your story and how you ended up being presidential diamonds in Doterra?
Sure. Yeah. Yeah, we can. Rox, do you want me to start it off or what do you think?
Yes, because James is the reason that we are at doTERRA.
Well, and so I mean that's really it's I'm kind of an anomaly in the doTERRA space, right? You know, most of the people who have jumped onto the doTERRA vehicle and opportunity, which is what I like to call it, have been more of the women of the world, right? And we all know most guys probably don't want to admit it, but without women, where would we be, right? They really kind of run the world, and they see the opportunities, and most of that comes out of the fact that they have such an immense desire to nurture, to heal, and especially starting with their families, that they just like the big mama bear type of thing that comes out. Well, we found ourselves in 2008. If you remember, any of you that were around that time, that was a big financial kind of recession that occurred, and it ended up being started kind of in the United States and ended up being worldwide. And so because of different things during that time, we went from, in a decent position, just kind of living our lives, not anything wealthy or anything, but just, cruising along, into financial despair, and found ourselves living in the mountains near the coast of California in a very small community that is very rural, and most people go there to hide in the woods, and it's cheap. It was very cheap. And so we ended up living in what we called our van down by the river because there was streams nearby, and we lived in this really old, broken down, like mobile home. In fact, it was kind of three different pieces of a mobile home that were kind of stuck together, and nobody had lived in it except rodents for years and years and years. And so we and the guy who owned it put new carpet on top of the old carpet, and so you still had the nice aroma. And it was so old and small. And we had three little boys at the time. We now have five boys, but we had three little boys at the time, 2, 4, and 6. And we were crammed into this little thing. And I was working extremely full time, trying to make ends meet or get to just stay above water, right? And we weren't. We were completely below. Every month was scary at the end of the month. Would we have food? Could we pay our bills? All that sort of thing. And then Roxanne, who in our marriage had really never ever worked when we had, while we had children, because she wanted to be an at-home mom, right? All of a sudden had no choice, had to go back to work, and she was working overnight as a caregiver, basically taking care of old people that were in a home, right? So, I mean, changing diapers and all that kind of thing, which is not, glamorous. So she would do that all night and then come home. And then I would be running out the door early in the morning. She would come home early. She would start taking care of the home and homeschooling kids and all of that. And then I would come home, at 7 or 8 or something at night. And then she would, be going off to do that again. And so our life at that time was in complete turmoil and not ideal, not anything we had planned on. Nobody expects that, but life has a way of bringing things to you that sometimes are outside of your control, right? It's what you do in those moments, what you choose in those moments that makes the difference. They're going to happen. You can't get away from them. And I wasn't this calm about it. Then we were pretty freaked out. And so I started looking at okay, what else can we do to bring in income? How can we change this situation? And, because I didn't have any capital, right? I'm totally broke. How do you invest in anything, right? It was the investment into real estate that got us into this moment. And so there wasn't, I looked at trying to maybe do a franchise or something like that. But again, no capital. So that wasn't going to work. So then people started approaching me with different network marketing craziness, right? And Roxanne and I, years and years before, had, experimented with or done different kinds of network marketing things enough that we were like, that sucks. We're never doing that again. And anybody who approaches us is a weirdo, and we're out, right? And so then, so I looked at, what people were introducing, and I was like, whatever, not going to do that. Checked out a few, even tried a few products just to see if anything inspired me. And in the end, it just wasn't a good fit, and just made me feel more like we're not doing that, right? And then, Roxanne's sister, Natalie, who we did not look at as the financial guru or the health guru. If anybody was a health guru, it was me. But she approached us and said, hey, we've got this amazing thing we're dealing with. It's helping people with health, and hey, you can make some money and whatever. We're like, whatever. What do you know? No. And so she was I call it pleasantly because Natalie is mellow, right? She just loves on people and so she would just keep checking in and keep saying, hey, do you want to do this? And we probably told her no at least 3 times, right?
And where was Natalie rank-wise when she approached you?
She was probably somewhere maybe to silver, but I think more premier-ish, right? She had been doing it for probably 2, maybe 3 months when she approached us, right? So she started in July of 2008, June, July of 2008. And she started out just, kind of using it in her holistic health practice that she had. And I didn't even know she was doing that, right? We connected every so often, but we weren't totally connecting.
We weren't living in the same state, so we.
Yeah. So anyway, so I just didn't see her in that light as far as any kind of a guru or whatever, but she just kept asking, and I just kept getting more desperate, right? So I needed healing on many levels, right? One of the biggest ones was financial. And of course, anytime you're in financial stress, you're in emotional stress, right? So I needed mental, emotional, and financial healing. And physically, I was in decent shape, whatever, other than we probably were eating a lot of, rice and beans, and that's about it. Maybe pasta back then, right? Whatever we could afford, and or get given. People took pity on us and whatnot. But so anyway, she had sent Roxanne products, and unbeknownst to me, I had no idea about that she had been sending stuff to Roxanne. Roxanne didn't do anything with it, but just kind of set it on a shelf or whatever. And one day when she and the kids were off running errands or something, I think it was a weekend, I was just kind of hanging out, and I saw these products up on a shelf, and I was like, interesting, what is this? And I said it was an essential oil. I was like, oh yeah, my mom I knew herbs and different things like that, but I didn't really have a lot of essential oil experience. But my mom years, ago had experimented with whatever. She had some around, but I didn't really know anything about them. So I opened it up and I was smelling it going, oh, that's interesting. It smells kind of Christmassy. And so I didn't know what to do with it. So I just put a few drops in my mouth. Right. And it went too fast. And I probably got about 10 drops of On Guard in my mouth. And, for those of you out in the Latino world, some of you are used to like the hot stuff, right? I'm a gringo wussy. I don't do the hot stuff, right? And all of a sudden, just On Guard, if you've never experienced it before, it's like a freaking party on steroids in your mouth of hotness, right? And so I was just like coughing, looking for water, drop the bottle. I'm like freaking out. What is this? Did I just poison myself, right? And anyway, so I just put the lid on it, put it back on the shelf, and said, I am not touching that. So as Natalie keeps following out, she's like, oh yeah, have you tried that? I'm like, yeah, it just about killed me. Like, what is that? Anyway, she started to tell me what she knew, and then started to tell me that she had, in her practice, because so many people were coming back for that and having success with the issues they were dealing with from the oils. She was like, decided to, jump in on the vehicle side of using this as an income piece and finding success with that. And she was wanting us to join with her because, when you start, you think about who are the people that if you're going to do this for the rest of your life, who are the people and the partners that you want to be connected with and whatnot. And even though, I wasn't her favorite brother-in-law and stuff at the time, we were the closest in age, as far as them a couple and us a couple or whatever, even though I'm older than everybody. But so she went through this process, and eventually, literally, because I was desperate, I was like, okay, all right, so if this is helping people and it truly will help people and I can make some money at the same time, that's a bonus. Like, what else can I do that would do that? Right. And so, I started like, we didn't have any money. So we opened up a credit card that had like a $500 limit. Right. And I knew I wasn't going to be able to pay off. Right. And so, but we got that to buy what then was the largest, most expensive doTERRA kit to start out with. And it was $500. And so I just started.
But we didn't have,
We didn't have, right? We had to use that credit card thing, and I didn't know how I was going to pay that off, right? And then
I kind of thought that was a really dumb decision, by the way.
But it turned out to be an amazing decision, right? I'm not saying everyone should do that, but that's what we did. Took a risk, right? Sometimes you have to take a risk, right? You think of the people, whether you like the people or not, but the big juggernaut business guys in the world, most of them will tell you about the major risks that they took, right, to get there. And so I just started opening up, trying different things, smelling different things. We didn't have any books or anything back then. I had 3 pieces of printed out, 3 sheets. One was for lemon, one was for peppermint, one was for lavender. That's all I had. That's all I knew. And I would carry them with me and try to like put them on people at work or, go to church or, whatever in the community and try to. And so then I called up everyone I knew, relatives and family, and, totally being the network marketing guy that everybody's running from. Right. And I just said, look, just, I know about health because I did kind of have a little bit of a reputation of being a healthy guy. And so I was like, if give me $500 and if you don't use it, I'll buy it back from you. Right. And of course I got my fingers crossed behind my back when I say that, because I knew there was no way I could buy it back. Right. So I had several people, and again, this is how I did it. This is not saying this is how it should go. Right. And then I just made sure people got it. When they got it, I said, when you get it, just let me know so I can tell you what to do so you can walk through it. And so they got it. I got them opening it. Once they open the bottles, it's all over, especially, way back then, right? When essential oils were even more unknown than they are now. So it was very intriguing. So people would open them up and I would tell them, well, this one should do this and this one should do that. I don't know for sure. I would tell people, I don't really know for sure all that these do or how they work. I just know that people are finding that they work for like different things. And so anyway, people would try them and they would start using them on their kids and themselves, and things would happen. Not always what was expected, but things would happen. And in the end, I only had to buy back one kit because the guy never opened it, and then just sold that to someone else, right? And so, and first, honestly, at first, everyone said no. No one wanted to do anything. I even had Dr. Hill fly out personally to do my very first class. Natalie talked him into coming out, and no one showed up, right? It was just him and I. No one showed up.
And yes,
Dr. Hill.
Dr. Hill,
What
and
a honor.
I didn't even go. I didn't even get a
Roxanne didn't
babysitter.
go. This whole time, Roxanne's like, I'm not doing this. I'm not touching that. I support you. You can do it. But then she didn't, do
I
anything.
know.
But then, so
Yeah.
it was like massive fail. Like we talk about challenges. You ask for challenges, like right out of the gate, fail. But it's funny. I felt that there was something about this, like different from anything else that I had experienced. And it's hard to remember exactly everything that was back then. This was 16 plus years ago, but I just remember feeling like, well, here we go. Like we're just doing this, right? And so so that was a big fail with Dr. Hill, and he went back and told Natalie that there was never going to be anything going on there. But then Natalie, she was like, hey, okay, so we're going to come out. We're going to drive out. We lived in California, there in Utah. And we'll drive out and let's set up a class. And so
she did not give up on the potential future for us, right?
Yeah.
Even though Dr. Hill was like, I don't know what you think you've got going on out there, but
she believed, and if you know Natalie, belief is huge for her. And so she just was like, okay, let's set up let's do it again. And so we basically kind of begged some people from our ward and community, or from our church and community to come and just come and listen to and learn about essential oils. And they came, mostly a bunch of wives, right? Came and to our really crappy, trailer, which was so embarrassing. Didn't even want to do it there, but Natalie was like, just do it there, right? So we had them come and they enjoyed. Now, at the same time, I think Roxanne was starting to kind of like pay attention a little bit. And we had this box, it was a big cardboard box that everything was in, had a big stain in the corner because one of the oils had leaked out or whatever. And she had two things, which, she can talk about or whatever, that started her story. And so eventually, once she started to like get into the stuff, and then she, with her experiences, decided that every mother should know that these exist and what they can do. And I'll let her tell a little bit about that. But when she did that, I got us to gold and a founder in the US before she really dove in. Okay.
Solo.
Of course, once she dove in, once she dove in, then, and we became partners, it was like, it just kind of just took off. Like we just were in it to win it. Right. And that's where we stayed. So Rox, you can tell your side of.
So go ahead. Question. Yeah.
I do have a question. Like, from all the fails, when was that tipping point for you to actually start? Because in silver and gold, you started actually seeing like bigger income, like a bit more like, okay, I can actually like at least have a decent living with this income. Like what happened from all the fails to, okay, this is actually starting to run like an actual business?
Yeah. Well, I mean, this was not, I wouldn't say that we were the most organized. I was definitely not the most organized. I mean, my life, I was still working very full time. Roxanne's work. I mean, it was like we would look at the calendar and go, okay, everything that is not essential, like anything that is non-essential goes out of the calendar. and every other minute is spent doing what we do. And I did that because I was failing, but I could see what the products would do. Like I would see little things, and so my belief in the product, right, was totally growing. My belief in it, because of what I was seeing, how other people were reacting to the product and what experience they were having, my belief in it as an opportunity for income increased. And so again, remember, I was super desperate. Like literally, this was it. If this didn't work, I didn't know what else was going to work. So that drove me like crazy. Everyone's going to have their own story of what drives them and why, what their why is, at least to begin with. My why was financial to begin with. It morphed and it continues to morph over time to drive me. But those fails, I didn't let the fails get in the way. I already knew from other experiences that failure was part of success. There is no success without failure, right? And so I didn't let that bother me, but also remember, this had to work. So failure doesn't matter. That's going to work. And so I'm going to keep going. And when you see that people get, positive results from something, you go, okay, this is it. This is going to work. I just have to stick with it. Keep going, keep going, keep going. Learn from all the different failures, and then just step forward again, right? And so when you do that, you get to this place where you go, okay, it's going to work. It's going to. I don't know. Your belief just starts to grow, and because for me, it had to.
There was like no plan B, right? There was like,
The
it wasn't like,
bridges
oh,
are burnt.
if this isn't fun, we'll go do this. We have another option. No, there was no option. So
This had to be. Plus, I just could feel it was a good thing. I could feel it, right? It was a good thing. It was based on really good principles, and the product was superior to anything else that you could find. Still is, and so it was just like full speed ahead. Don't let the obstacles, don't let the detours, whatever, no distract, just go forward. And that's what got us where. And so each time, my first check, I didn't even expect it, right? It was almost like accidental, was like $8 and change, right? But I will tell you, like I had done years and years ago other network marketing where basically I just spent money and no money came in, right? And so to even get an $8 check, I was like, oh my gosh, amazing. Like I actually got some. So then I was like, okay, I can get more of these, right? If I could just get enough of these, they'll add up. I just needed about $1,500 to $2,000 a month extra to help us get back on track, right? And
that was our first goal, or at least his first goal. Yeah.
That was my first why, right?
Yeah. So, I mean, maybe for some people it's smaller than that, but if you know anyone who is like me and who's hard-headed, don't give up on them, okay? Because he did not give up on me. He obviously, I'm sure he was frustrated, right? But he would just like I would say, oh man, I have another headache and I don't want to take any pain reliever because I just don't like what that does to my body and long term. And I would have these headaches all the time. And he'd be like, they have essential oils that are right there in that box. You could try some. And I'd be like, you and your talk about essential oils, I would just be so irritated, right? But then I would kind of be like, okay, fine. Like it does hurt. Like I should just try, and at the time, deep blue oil was basically what we had. And I remember I would put it on the back of my neck. And I remember thinking, okay, well, like it didn't take the headache away, but as a mom, when you don't feel good, you're kind of mean. At least that's how I am. I'm not very nice when I'm in pain. And so I found myself being less mean. That was literally the thing that I was like, I'm feeling less mean. That must mean that my pain is a little bit lower. And And so I would just like apply the deep blue oil on my neck and like right here in my forehead. And I would just do it over and over. Every time it kind of, seemed to go away, I'd do it again. And I remember I got like a little rash on the back of my neck and I was like, I don't even care. Like, I don't even understand these things. And I guess I could be allergic, but I don't even care because it seems like they're helping. And which now I know, like, there are no allergens in pure essential oils. So you're not allergic. Your skin is just trying to adjust to this consistent application that you're giving it, right? And so, of course, those little dots went away. And eventually, like, I used that very, very frequently. So if people ask me, like, well, how do I get stuff to go away? I'm like, you got to use it frequently, because basically I did that every time I needed it. And after about a month, those consistent headaches that were my life, they just went away. And I was like expecting them to show up again, they didn't. And I didn't understand the science of, all the different plants and the components of these oils. But like, I was like, oh, wow. Okay, hold on. That's surprising. Like, I didn't expect that, So I started kind of paying more attention, like, oh crap, maybe James is right. Maybe these actually do work. I'm going to have to totally eat
Hate it
my,
when the husband is right.
and
What's so
then I had,
funny?
yeah, go ahead.
What's so funny about this that usually here, like, I'm growing in Dominican Republic, it's the opposite. It's like the women, the wife, who usually starts with the essential oils, with the natural solutions, and the husband is like, no, no, no. But I think it's proven that deep blue does the trick. My husband was the same until he started using deep blue, and yeah, there's no going
Hey,
back.
I agree, man. And I always tell people, like, just be so patient. Just be like Natalie was to us. She was so consistently kind, and she didn't give up on us, and he didn't give up on me, right? And then I did have a toddler who would not nap. And that was something else that was like, these were probably the two biggest things besides having to work outside the home that was like really hard on me, was this toddler. When I had older kids and the toddler had to nap, but he decided, like, my older brothers aren't napping. Like, why should I nap? And so he just stopped, and I literally wanted to lose my mind. I was, because if you have small kids and when they don't nap, they're whiny and they want you to hold them all the time. And so you can't accomplish anything. And so, my sister was like, try Serenity oil. And I was like, okay, like, what am I supposed to do with it? And I think she was like, put it on the bottom of his feet. And I'm thinking, that is the weirdest thing you've ever said. Like, what? But I did it, and he fell asleep, and I thought I'd killed him because he like slept really deeply. I was kind of nervous, like, oh my gosh, did I hurt him? But he was alive, and he woke up and he was well rested. He was like, which normally if he did fall asleep for a nap, he'd wake up like super cranky. And I was like, dude, if you even slept, you're just worse. Like, I don't even know how to fix this. But sure enough, man, I just said, like, Serenity is his oil. Cause like, as long as I used it, I told myself, I'm going to test this. I'm going to prove it wrong. And this is probably not the oil. It's just a coincidence. He's growing out of not napping. Baloney. Every time I used that oil on him and didn't get distracted, some days he would fall asleep without it. But guess what? He would wake up in 20 minutes. He'd be crying. He'd be miserable. As long as I used that oil on him, and sometimes it wasn't just the bottom of his feet. I'd do the spine, after I realized, like, okay, this is helping. Like, and that kid, Serenity, saved his toddler years. He probably would have like less brain now if he hadn't had that sleep, right? And so it was like James said. After that, I was like, man, if there are other mothers who can't get their kids to sleep, or they hurt, like, it is my responsibility. I don't get to choose. I have to tell them about this, because this is a way that they can help their kids without having to give them something that's medicine that might do something negative, right? It was like, this isn't my job now. And so at that point, I was totally like, okay, James, just tell me what to do, because I'm going to start talking to people.
But remember too, like, and just for anyone who's out there, it's key when it comes to, if you have a spouse or a partner or whatever that is perceived as negative or whatever it is, I never pressured her. I never like, you need to do this, come on, do this and try this and whatever. It was more of like, just, calm, suggestions here and there if there was a perceived need, and or waiting for any curiosity or questions. And I was also like, I might tell a story about how I used it or someone I knew used it or whatever, right? Like, oh, it's so interesting. Right.
Planting seeds, right?
Yeah. So, because you can't get anybody to do anything. You can't. People have to choose in always it's their own motivation, but you can create moments and things that might cause them to ask a question, and whether it's to themselves or to you. And so you're always looking to love someone with what we have and invite them very, casually, nice or whatever into it. Now, you may come across other people outside of your like immediate sphere of people who tend to like be resistant, right? That you might be a little bit more aggressive with, in the sense of like, oh, I noticed you were talking about headaches. Man, I have this natural product. It's been amazing for us. Would you be open to trying something natural with no side effects for your headache, right? That's different. I would never have done that to Roxanne because I knew her, she knew me. And I also knew that I really needed her to just come in it by her with her own journey, through her own journey, right? And that's a super. I had so many. So over the
Dude,
years, I've
it's
had so
true.
many wives. Like, my husband won't do this. He won't like it. He won't whatever. And I'm like, yeah, well, especially the way you're trying to ram it down his throat. I don't.
Yeah.
It's not gonna happen, right? You need to be calm. You need to love them. You need to understand that this is totally foreign to them, and you need to do everything you can to be very pleasantly persuasive, right? Like, just invite people in when the moment is right and stuff. So anyway, yeah, that's our story.
Yeah. And thank you. Like, it's so inspiring because I think there are many people that might be listening to the podcast that may be feeling similar, like you did when you started out. Desperate to leave a job, desperate to be a stay-at-home mom, desperate to manage their own time. Like,
Mm-hmm.
you really don't know. And listening to you, it's pure inspiration to keep on going. And I'm so blessed to be able to have this conversation. And how do you, like, once Roxanne and you decided to do this together, okay, gold and above, we're gonna do this together. Like, how was it? Um, what challenges did you face? Like, you know, you knew this worked. You knew the products worked. You loved doing it and helping other people. Like, how was it? Like,
Oh my gosh. Okay.
going
The first thing
big
I have
leaps.
to say was so hard was that we had moved to a new area and I didn't really feel like I had any friends. Like I had a small group of friends that I went to church with and like I didn't know anyone. So I was just like, oh my gosh, like how am I going to do this? I don't know people where I live and that's really what I wanted to do was talk to people that I knew, right? That I could like share. And so that is like a huge challenge. So if you live somewhere where you don't have a lot of friends, I get you, and it's still possible. But that was absolutely one of the biggest things that, so we had to like, okay, let's find like a little, craft fair or like these little things that, because we didn't have very much money. So we had to find things that had very low entry that, if it was like $25 to have like a little table, or whatever, we had to think outside the box because we didn't know that many people. But I did talk to people that I knew, and there were just few of them. But those conversations were instantly like, "Oh my gosh, huge leader." So that it took so much time. Like we did live in the mountains. We lived in that little crazy, motorhome, and then we actually got the blessing. As we were working and praying for ideas and things, got the blessing of living in a better situation that was actually rent free. Like God literally gave us that blessing. And I
But it
know that
wasn't work free. It added
it
more
wasn't
work.
work free.
We
We
were
had more work.
caretakers. Yeah.
Yes, we were caretakers,
But
but that was so far
it was
away.
it was still a mobile home. It was just
Yes,
nicer.
yes, yeah. So people couldn't necessarily come to our house super easy to have like, let's have a class at that point because it was kind of far away. And so then we had to be like, okay, we got to like maybe see about renting like a hotel, like a conference room where we could like say we're going to have an event, and invite people to that, because nobody will drive to our house, because it's literally in the middle of the woods and like people won't go up there. So those were some obstacles that we were up against. Is like everyone has their things of their area, they know, but we just had to get super creative. And yes, basically some of the people that I talked to were like, no, but then later they said yes, because I just didn't stop talking to them. And so I think that, the big message here is like, whatever the problem is that's in your way, like, just don't give up, right? And keep going.
I mean, if you really want something, there's that saying, necessity is the mother of invention, right? And so people always ask me like, give me the steps of how to do that. I'm like, the steps were like, I was super motivated to like fix my life, right? And so I just said, well, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that, and it's when you burn your bridges, or there aren't any bridges because they were burned for you, right? You have this huge need, you figure it out, right? And everybody needs to like get to a space where they want this bad enough, and what could be and can be, that they are willing to try and fail and try and fail and try and fail until there's success. And that's just, and if you're not willing to do that, then this ain't for you, right? But if you are willing to like, stretch, step out on a limb, step, out into a free fall, whatever, right? Then you'll find the success. The beautiful thing today is there's so much more support and information and things available. So you don't do this alone. Even back then, Natalie, even though she was almost as new as we were, she wasn't leaving us alone, right? We did this in many ways together, and that's another beautiful thing about what we have now.
Go team.
And yes, and well, for me, that has been one of the biggest gifts, being able to have a community, to have a like-minded people that we want the same things, and that I've never felt alone in Doterra. Like, even on my bad days, I think everyone has cried doing this business. And for you, what has been that unexpected gift that you didn't know you were going to get when you started Doterra?
Well, I can just out of the gate say that I got a ton of friends and community. And that was actually when we left network marketing, that was the piece that I told James, I will never do this again, because I had made a bunch of friends in the company that I was in before. And then when we decided to not remain, it really hurt me. I was like, oh my gosh, like I just had to leave all these friends. And so I kind of was like, that's one of my reasons that I swore it off, was like, I will not make a bunch of friends and then change that whole situation and make it seem like now I'm not their friend anymore. And so that for me, it was like, oh my gosh, like the cup that as a mother, sometimes when you're at the house with your kids and you don't really get to hang out with other moms, or maybe you live far away from a city, I lived far away. I had little kids that needed to nap. I couldn't really see friends, and this filled that cup for me, like, and it still continues. It's overflowing. Like, I literally have never, since I joined Doterra, felt that void of like, I'm lonely. I don't have friends. I don't have community. I have it. It's like, oh man. So if you're searching for that, like this is the place.
Yeah. And I was just going to say the exact same thing. I was going to say people like you, right? So like, we have connections with people in their lives all over the world that was completely unexpected, right? A week ago, I was in Kazakhstan, right? For the grand opening of Doterra in that market. Over 1,000 people showed up. Most of that is on our team. And if you'd have told me when I was living in the van down by the river, begging people to like try an essential oil, that one day we would have friends literally all over the globe, I would have laughed. And frankly, I didn't care, because like at that point, I just wanted some people in my, kind of area, or at least in the United States, to like buy some stuff to fix their lives, which would then help me fix mine. That's really all I cared about. And so to like wake up one day and go, oh my gosh, I have real and deep relationships with people across the globe. And I've been, I wouldn't say it's me or Roxanne, but we have been a part of and been able to be involved in people's lives transforming, not just our own.
And we would have never known those people. There's no other way that would have happened, really. I don't think so.
And yeah, I think people, because I'm just starting to grow Dominican Republic. Like right now, my team is the biggest team in DR, so we're baby steps. Just starting. A baby in diapers.
I want to give you kudos for that, because you're also developing a market that isn't technically open for Doterra, right? And so there's a lot of challenges. We've opened some markets like that, and it's not easy. So this is when the tough show up, right? The tough and rough and ready folks who are like, okay, bring it. I'm going to solve the problems. I'm going to take on this challenge. So, you're awesome for taking that on.
You are.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And I have two final questions. One would be, what can you say to that wellness advocate that maybe just started out, or maybe is having a hard time, or maybe is stuck in a rank? What can you say to that person to keep going?
Rox, you want to?
No, well, I'm like, we could fight for this, but James is actually, we both have great thoughts on this, but James is like, James literally, I always say he can sell ice to an Eskimo, but he will inspire people to do things that they've never even thought possible. So we probably only have time for one of us, so let's have him.
Well, I don't know about that. Roxanne's way better looking and much more interesting to listen to, but
I have hair.
And you're younger too. This is the thing. You're going to have seasons in your business, right? Every business, you talk to any business owner, there's always seasons. The thing that keeps people going, and is the difference between a season letting it stop you and not, is why are you doing this, right? And if you've forgotten why you do this, then it is easy to get stuck. It is easy to let things that are a challenge get in your way. And the why of whatever you did this to begin with is not going to last the whole time you're involved, right? And I constantly, here we are, Presidential Diamonds, U.S. Founders. We're working on our second, presidential, which that's a whole other story. But the point is I am in the process always of checking in with, what is my why? What is it that drives me? Why do I do this? Why am I going to, because especially when you get into the upper ranks, right? I don't need to necessarily keep doing this, right? We're doing okay. Yeah. And so you have to constantly tap into something that is kind of bigger than where you're at right now. And that's outside of you, really, right? Because the financial thing is what drove me in the beginning, but that didn't last very long, because that was just a need. That wasn't like an internal huge, what do they call it? A big hairy ass goal or whatever, right? It's like, it's gotta be something. Like for me, I started to look at this idea of we can literally heal the planet. We can change communities. And if we can change communities, then that's all the world is made of, is communities who touch communities. And if we can go around to all these communities, I started to develop that. So whoever you are, wherever you're at, if you're feeling stuck or oh, I don't know, and can I do this and whatever, you got to ask yourself, well, why are you doing it? And if why you were doing it isn't big enough anymore, then you need to get a new why. You need to understand what is possible with this, and are you going to try and get to that place, right? And then you have to have that so clear and so articulated that every day, if you stare it in the face, you are either deciding to not be all that you can be, or fulfill all the potential that you have. And you're going to have to stare that in the face and say, yeah, I'm okay with not, reaching my potential. Or you're going to go, dang, what am I doing today and tomorrow and the next day that's getting me there? Because everything you do every day is what defines what happens every month, every week, every month, every year, right? So where you're at is based on the decisions you did or didn't make in the days past. And it's never too late to say, today I'm doing something. I'm going to do an activity that will help to produce results. There are income activities that I every day need to get done. What can I do today? Start there.
Thank you. I'm getting all excited here. Like, I'm gonna listen to it again and write everything down. And like, one last question: what would you say to someone that's not doing Doterra, but has probably been flirting with the idea, but still doesn't know? Because I do have to say, at least in the Dominican Republic, there's still a lot of taboo regarding network marketing. And usually for people, they think if it looks too good to be true, it is too good to be true, which for me, I think doTERRA is like an exception, because you really get what you see and it is really good. But what would you say to them?
Yeah, I mean, it's just a vehicle. It's not alive, right? It's alive when you step into it, right? And everybody has the potential. But I think people think of it as something different than regular business, and it's not. It's a different way of doing business. And when you look at what people think of as traditional or acceptable business, if you look at those, there's a lot of good ones and there's a lot of bad ones, but they don't stop trying or going into those businesses. And so it doesn't really logically make sense to go, oh, network marketing, da 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 da, right? No. Some network marketing is a great opportunity and some is not, right? It doesn't mean that it's all bad. And you kind of forget that because it's not something you're used to thinking in. But to me, it's like, look, I think network marketing has the lowest cost opportunity to get into something that can bring the most value for you and teach you some amazing things on a personal level, on a business level, and bring freedom in a way that nothing else I've ever seen experienced. And I've done a lot of things can. And freedom is another thing I didn't really ever fully understand, and until we got to it. Right. Yeah. I needed some financial help so that I could not, so I could pay my bills and not be in debt. But when you can build an income that's passive, that comes in, the freedom that comes from that, if you could see my whole body, I'm like in a pair of shorts and a t-shirt and I'm at home. Right. My kids are like, Dad, how come all my friends' dads go somewhere every day? Right? Why don't you go away? You're here too much, right? I do occasional travel, right? But when I'm home, man, I am here and all day. I get to participate in so many aspects of life that I think for others, and I want that for everyone. Everyone should have that. So anyway,
Thank you so much, both of you, for this amazing hour. It's been, for me, I'm so blessed and thankful to be able to have this information, to this conversation with you. Like, I was really shocked. Like, I told my husband, like, I'm gonna email them, I'm gonna see what happens. And when you answered like right away, I was like, oh my god, I can't even. So
well,
again, thank you.
The pleasure is all ours, and we're grateful that people like you say yes to hard things, right? And to unknown opportunities, right? And if people like you didn't say yes, didn't have a why, didn't want to help your community and dive into your community, then none of this would matter. So really, we are, I think, more grateful for you. So thank you. Yeah.
Thank
And
you.
we're going to be in the DR next year.
I know. Yeah, we have to plan something. I already told Christina, but if you're coming too, we're gonna
Oh,
do
will be.
something
Yeah. And if you give
because
us enough notice, maybe, if you had something happen the day before or the day after or something like that, then we can maybe come in a teeny bit early or something and whatever. But you do what works best for you and your team, but we're happy to help if we can.
yeah, definitely will because last year we were only two active wellness advocate in Dominican Republic. Now we're like 12 in 1 year. So yeah,
That's so
I'm
awesome.
hoping that next year we're gonna be even more.
We want to meet all
Um,
of them.
yeah, I'm so excited. And yes, we're definitely gonna organize something and we're gonna see you at convention. Like I'm trying to convince all my team so we can go together and enjoy everything at convention.
That's awesome. Love it. Forward to it. Yeah.
I will. I will. And thank you again so, so much. Have a great day.
Yes, you too. Thank you. Bye bye.